Hi everybody, this is Mark, and we're carrying on our lectures and presentations on the American Revolution, and today we are at Fort Knox in Maine on Penobscot Bay, and behind me you'll see the fort. Fort did not look like this in 1777, 1778. In fact, it was almost non-existent, but the residents of Maine were concerned with a invasion by the British over across the bay itself, and they were up into Canada, and so they feared that the British would invade and take over, so they asked the Continental Congress for funds to build a fort, which was never really built. The fort that you see in back of us was started in the 1840s, 1850s, and continued to be built over the next 4 or 5 years, and into the 1870s was mostly built for the Civil War. It was designed to be heavily armed. However, it rarely got cannon, and so it was, because it was taking so long to build, the cannon technology kept changing, and so they never really got any cannons, and it really never saw any great action. But it did protect, because the British were still in Maine. They were going to side with the southern colonies, and the Congress was afraid that the British would then again invade during the Civil War, which never really took place. So we come over here, and we have one of these magnificent armaments that was placed here. This is a huge 32-pounder, and although I am not an ordnance expert, its massive size is amazing. This gun would fire, these trees weren't here, would fire to the narrowest point within the bay. It was very, very narrow, and the guns from the fort, and this battery A was all along here. You can see the smaller guns on the smaller emplacements. This is a big gun here, and it would control that narrow entrance into the bay itself, just from sitting here. This is a massive piece of armament. I don't know a lot about these, but I can tell you that they moved it left and right by putting iron bars in these wheels. You can see the little holes right here, and they would put the metal poles in, and they would just push it like this and put it in a hole and push it like that, and that would turn the gun this way, or it would turn the gun that way. And they had it both on both sides. You can see the smaller wheels in the front also had holes. To move the cannon back and forth, they could use that gear that's in the front. If you look at it, it has holes. And then I believe there was a big gear that is currently missing that would sit in here, and they would raise and lower this, and that gear would go in these gears and would also match those holes, those elongated holes. The gears would fit in there, and that's how they would raise and lower. Raise it to increase the arch, give it a greater distance, and lower it so that it was more of a direct shot. Generally, these things, you didn't get too much, but it was just massive. I mean, this thing is almost 3.5 feet in diameter at the widest side, so it's pretty massive in itself. The fort was never really used. It did have because the Army owned it, the United States government owned it, they would keep a caretaker here, and they had a caretaker way up until they gave it to the state. In 1920, federal government decided to unload all of these little forts that they had that never used, were out of date, and so the governor of Maine got 5 of these forts given to the state, and they are now state parks. And so here we are at Fort Knox State Park in Maine. Thanks for the short tour.